Hey everybody, welcome to ProNoobs episode 3. Wow, how far we've come already.
It has been a journey.
Yeah, but not as much as a journey, Josh. Not as much as a journey as the Uncharted series has been.
It's about a small town girl.
No, it's not. It's about Nathan Drake, who is a 30-something-year-old man. Not this small town girl. He's a treasure hunter.
And he lives in a lonely world.
No, he gets around. He's Elena. You've seen Elena. He's doing not bad, you know.
He takes the midnight train.
No, he
going
doesn't.
anywhere.
There's a train in Uncharted 2, but it goes somewhere off a cliff.
Spoilers.
It's the beginning of the game, dude. You'll see.
I will see, as in I have not yet.
You'll forget about this by the time you get to Uncharted 2. Although I do see you are over the halfway point for Uncharted 1.
Forget about what?
I don't know.
Okay.
Welcome. Of course, today we're going to be talking about Uncharted. The new game, Uncharted 4, came out, and I have played it quite a bit because it's incredible. I got to say, starting right out the bat, my overall opinion, it's the best one. The last one, most likely. I haven't played Golden Abyss, but I think I can safely say that this is the best one. Of course, I played the first 3, though, which you are going through for the first time. So you're a new Uncharted player. I've been with, not since the beginning, but I did, like a year or 2 after the first one came out, I got around to playing it, and from there on, I was with it. And yeah, it's been a crazy franchise. It's just the most ridiculous things happen in these games. Like once you get to the end of it, it actually kind of gets a little like, okay, that's gonna break, I'm gonna fall, there's some kind of thing that's gonna happen, some huge action set piece where this thing is falling and I gotta grab onto something. It's kind of a joke at this point, honestly, how much stuff breaks in Uncharted that you're trying to climb on. You'll see by the end of it. But these games, they're definitely some of the best action adventure games out there, and this one is one of the best exclusives. I will say, I probably, I understand if this will get Game of the Year. I totally think it will.
It can't for us because I have not played it.
Yeah, it will be on my list, but honestly, I still like Dark Souls 3 better, but just because that's more of a open RPG type game. This is, for what it is, it's near perfect, but it is a somewhat linear third-person action game with great multiplayer. And I will say it's not as linear as the other games. There are moments, levels where you can roam around like in a vehicle. There's one level where you go to Madagascar, and it's pretty much open world. You can go explore ruins, find treasure, fight bad guys here and there. It's pretty awesome. Although I will say there are a lot of instances where they try to add more choice that are kind of pointless. Like branching paths you can climb on, but you're going to the same place, and there's nothing, like, there's not really a reason to go one way or the other. But overall, it's fantastic. There's a level in Madagascar, and there's a level where you're on a boat that are really big open world levels. You can explore wherever you want to. Yeah, you can even dive in the water and everything looks awesome. It's one of the best looking games ever. And what's interesting is the single player, it keeps a almost completely solid 30 frames per second. The only time it's ever dipped for me is if there was a lot of like moving water on the screen.
Yeah.
Then it would slow down a bit. But the online multiplayer is they lower the resolution and up the frame rate to 60 for gameplay purposes, and it all looks great. I think even the online with the lower resolution, and it's all fun, which is the important thing for me. If you've never played Uncharted, it's basically like Indiana Jones action movie, modern day. You're going through, shit's blown up, you're fighting bad guys. It's, it's not the most complex. There's a lot of complexity with, even though it's a simple premise, they do a lot with it, but there's not a lot of open world gameplay. There's not a lot of choice that goes into it. There was a big thing about branching dialogue options in this new one.
Mm-hmm.
There were literally 3 instances of that, which is not a big deal because it's not like I didn't really care about that from the beginning. But there's the one they showed in E3 where you're talking to your brother. There's one later in the game, and there's one that's just optional. Like, you don't have to do it for the story. So that's not that big of a part of the game. Some of the big stuff they did add, like I say, the vehicles. You mentioned how you're playing the 2007 original Uncharted Drake's Fortune.
Yes.
And you were having some trouble with the jet ski levels.
Oh, no, I wasn't having trouble at all with the jet ski levels. It was the, in my opinion, very poor handling of the jet skis that were the problem. Like, the turning is very stiff, and the fact that you're trying to speed up a river while getting shot at, and to fight back, you have to quite literally stop the jet ski in the middle of the river and get shot so you can take your shot. That was not fun for me.
Yeah, I don't. It's been a while since I played. I don't remember that segment. I do remember the jet ski segment, but I don't remember exactly.
Trying to go up little waterfalls.
But you know, it is 2007. It's almost 10 years old, and I got to say they did improve the vehicle handling greatly.
If this was a new game,
it would. Yeah,
I would have been like, "Fuck this game."
Yeah, but it's so fun to drive the Jeep in this game, in the new one, and they've added like a puzzle element because it's also known for its puzzles. You've probably ran into a few in the first.
I ran into the library puzzle recently.
There's a couple of platform puzzles with the Jeep because you've got a winch. You can like attach it to things, pull things down, all that. And there's some cool action sequences with the Jeep, and yeah, I think the vehicle handling is great. The grappling hook is a new feature also, and it is really fun, especially in multiplayer because you can actually there's a vertical takedown you can do in single player, and I wasn't sure if you'd be able to do it in multiplayer, but you actually can. If the person below you runs out of the way, they can dodge it, but it's other than that, it's pretty hard to dodge. You can just swing above a person, come down, and smash them for an instant kill. It's so awesome. Grappling hook, I love all the stuff they did with it, and it's implemented well. It's not underused and it's not overused, which is great. I think it's one of the best new features. Also, stealth. You're playing the first game now. How big is stealth in the game?
There's no stealth in that game.
There is, but it's almost impossible.
I might be able to
in the
get
first
close
one, I
enough
could
to start punching somebody.
Yeah,
but
that's
pretty much every time it's
essentially was.
Hey, there he is, and I'm like, wait, I'm hiding. What?
Stealth has been greatly improved in this new one, where it's viable to completely stealth certain sections. There is a marking ability. You can mark enemies. There's also a indicator on the easier difficulties. Right now I'm playing through Crushing because I finished the game once already. And on Crushing you don't get to mark enemies and you don't get that indicator. But even still, it's easier than the previous games. There's this tall grass. There's these like patches of tall grass or weeds or whatever, and you can crawl through that to avoid enemies. You can pull enemies into that, and other enemies won't notice them. You can do those vertical takedowns stealthily. You can pull people off ledges like you could do in the previous games. So stealth is totally an option this time around. In fact, I think there are only 1 or 2 segments. There are only a handful of segments in the game where you are not able to do stealth. Everything else, I think, like I said, the game just came out, so I'm not 100% sure, but it feels like most of the game you can stealth, which is pretty cool. It seems like a totally viable option now. All the weapons are fun to use. I always thought the weapons were great, but they're still fun to control. Rolling around, switching shoulders, all the necessities for third-person shooters are there. I'm trying to think of some new features. But yeah, everything they've added is great. I love all the additions. The The story also, I think, is the best out of all of the games. One of the things I was wondering going from The Last of Us to a new Uncharted game was how is that going to affect the tone of a new Uncharted game? And luckily they kept the same adventurous tone, but it's slightly more grounded and slightly darker. And I think the only real reason why it's darker and more grounded is because the characters are older. Nathan Drake, he's I don't think this is a spoiler. This is like the beginning of the game. He started a family. Not started a family. He's married. He kind of living a normal life, and he gets dragged back into this world because there are no spoilers so far, right? This is all E3 stuff. Why are you looking at me like that?
So he's got a family, huh?
No, he's married.
No, he's married, huh?
Yeah. That's not a spoiler. That was in the E3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dick.
That's not a spoiler. It's in E3.
Okay, I have to confess something to you.
What?
I've been doing the best I can to avoid Uncharted spoilers.
Uh-huh.
But because it is, a big event in gaming.
Yeah.
And I listen to quite a number of gaming podcasts. It's been the predominant topic of conversation for a lot of them. And as soon as they start talking about it, it's like, well, the story starts off with Nathan Drake and his fam. I'm like, fuck, I got to skip this show and go to the next one. So
but he doesn't have
heard.
He's just married.
I've heard.
I won't say who he's married to.
Assume.
Yeah.
But
I thought this was all stuff we knew before, though.
Yeah, and there are just some things that you
okay.
pick up through osmosis over the years, just listening to a bunch of people talk about Uncharted. And
to be fair, I guess I guess they didn't reveal that he was married in E3.
And it's not like The Last of Us, to where I think to this day, out of all of the gaming podcasts I listen to,
they just don't want to.
They don't talk about it, and not because it's like, oh, we don't talk about the game because the games. No, it's
we don't want to ruin the story.
We're not going to talk about the story because you need to play it.
Yeah.
And with Uncharted, it's like casual things happen, like when you know what? I'm going to say something from Uncharted. Drake's fortune. Sully disappears, for the first part of the game.
For Uncharted?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, he's dead. And then, you get halfway through the game and it's like, oh, wait, never mind.
But now, wasn't he in the E3 footage for the new game?
Well, that's just it.
Yeah. You see it, yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah, I know he's coming back.
See, there are things that are going to be,
in fact, I know he's going to survive at least 2 more games.
There are things that are going to be ruined when you play the other games. I will say right now there's a fake out, since we already know he's alive for the 4th one. There's a fake out in 3 where it looks like he dies again, but they immediately go back. So it's not like a big thing.
God damn it, Sully, stop doing that.
I love Sully. I love the character. The characters in these games are so likable. I wish like action movies had characters like this.
I did like that. It got really cheesy for a minute, right before he went into the door, and in that area where you saw I was in, and she's like, Drake, and he's like, what? And never having played the game before, I say the line at the same time with her, be careful.
Yeah.
Like, oh, God, that's stupid. And then he turns around, hits his head on the top of the doorway. He's like, I did not see that. And I'm like, okay, that was great. Love that.
Yeah, I love the humor in this game. Nolan North is fantastic. It's Nathan Drake. It's one of those characters that you just can't. I don't want to see a movie just because I don't want to see anybody else do that. You
could get him. It's not like,
He's a bit older than what his character actually is.
Well,
even the new older Nathan Drake, he's a bit older than.
They would just set it a little bit.
And of course,
further on.
This is not a spoiler. This was heavily in E3. There's no way this is a spoiler. His brother shows up. Nathan Drake's
because
brother. That's the main story of the game, and played by Troy Baker. So you've got like the Batman and Superman of the voice acting video game industry.
I thought it was like the Batman and the Penguin.
Well, yeah, but no, he played Joker. Troy played Joker in that game. I forgot who played Batman.
Okay, so yeah.
Basically, the titans of the voice the guys people know.
Hey, if you play a video game, you've heard their voices at some point.
And now they're, playing brothers in this game. And I got to say,
it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I have to say, this is totally like something that, they retcon it and they say, oh, he's always had a brother. And it's like, well, obviously not. When they were writing Drake's Fortune, they didn't think he had a brother at the time. But it feels like this has always been the case. Just because their chemistry and the performances, it's like these guys have always known each other. These guys are brothers. It's crazy. It feels like, man, it feels like Sam could have been in the other games.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous how they pull it off like that. And like I said, the story for this game, it's more grounded and it's a lot. It is my favorite Uncharted story as well as game overall. I love all the performances. Great. It's so great seeing all these characters back. And the villain, I will say there are two villains, which the Uncharted games kind of have that Bond-esque thing to them, where there's like a main guy and like a henchman.
Mm-hmm.
You might notice it with Roman and Navarro in the first game. I remember I walked in earlier and you were watching a cutscene with them in it. And the main villain in this game is... name's Rafe, and the guy who plays him does such a great job playing this like rich snobby asshole. Like the voice he does is such like a snobby. I love the dude's voice. It's just it's such a fun character. And then Nadine is like this tough chick who's like, she leads her own private militia. I don't know if you saw the E3 footage where she beats the crap out of Nathan Drake. That character is probably one of my main weak points with the story and where that character goes. I'm not going to spoil it, obviously, but I feel like the way they ended that character, there were two paths that could kind of go down that admittedly are both cliches, but it's better. I feel like either path is better than what they did, and the way it ended up, the character felt almost pointless by the end, which sucks because it was a character I really liked because it kind of had that thing where it was like a chick that kicked ass and like you couldn't beat her without playing dirty, basically, which I think is a cool concept in an action game or action movie. Like I think I talked about it before, getting something like that as a Bond henchwoman, someone he couldn't sleep with or like try to seduce or whatever, someone who just beats the shit out of him, like a real challenge to him. But yeah, that was the only disappointment with the story, is that character. But that character felt underused. But everything else, loved. All the performances, great. The relationship between the brothers is fantastic. They have such great chemistry. Yeah, and like I said, I did play a bit of the multiplayer as well. It's really fun, but one of my main problems with it, you played the Last of Us multiplayer, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember the feature where you down an enemy? You take all their health and they get down, but they can be revived, and you don't necessarily get the kill unless you execute them as well?
Mm-hmm.
You remember that, right? Where you down an enemy, they're crawling around, they can be revived. They brought that into this game, and I don't think it fits at all. In Last of Us, it was a much slower-paced, stealth-focused multiplayer. Very tactical. Everybody's crawling around, listening for people, setting bombs. And in that, it made more sense. But with the fast pace, swinging around, grappling hooks, pulling people off ledges, which that is an insta-kill. So that's not a problem. But when you're shooting someone in the head and you're running around in cover, rolling around, and you just down them, and someone else can come along and steal your kill, it's just like, fuck off, man. I don't like that feature in this kind of fast-paced multiplayer game. I had one round that it'll probably end up being in this video where I had like 22 downs and I think 15 actual kills because people stole my kills. It might have been more than that.
Bitches.
But the funny thing is, the characters do say like things like that. When you get an assist, the character's like, "That was my kill," or they'll make some kind of quip.
Okay, at least it's acknowledged.
Yeah. Which, by the way, you can play as all the characters from the new game. You can unlock characters from the previous games, which is cool. And a lot of fun customization items, different clothes, taunts. The taunts in the game are so funny. But yeah, the multiplayer is very addicting. There's this sidekick kind of element to it where you can... It's not like a kill. It's like you get enough money by getting kills or collecting treasure that you can bring in this like brute with a minigun who will fight for you and get kills for you. So stuff like that. You can get someone who revives people. You could get a sniper. A lot of cool stuff like that, which is great. I didn't talk about the... Well, I guess I shouldn't talk about it. Yeah, I don't know what... I'm going to refrain from talking about it because it has to do with the end of the game, but...
Then please do. I mean, there are some things that I think I'll be able to avoid, like...
Should we talk about the thing that we both know?
Hold on. I'm trying to find a way to put this into words. You see, because at some point someone's going to ask that inevitable question. Will there be an Uncharted 5? Don't answer that. Don't hint at it. Don't say anything. Because to me, just answering that question or guessing on that question kind of gives a clue as to what might be a part of the ending. Not necessarily in detail, but certain plot points that I know people were asking about going into the game. So I think as long as that question and nothing about that question gets answered, I should be safe playing the first 3 and then 4. I know I'm on a very serious time crunch because the statute of limitations for spoilers is going to be up, and
Articles are just going to be...
Yeah. Big headlines. Giant man.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to talk... I will say the ending was satisfying. Like most of the story was. Like I said, just that one character was the only thing that really stood out as being weak. But yeah, overall great game. I recommend it. I can't recommend it enough. Even though, like I said, Dark Souls 3 is still my number 1 so far this year. I do think this will be Game of the Year. I think unless No Man's Sky completely meets everyone's expectations and exceeds them, I think that'll be the only chance it will lose. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and there'll be more next week.